This is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on November the 2nd in the year of our Lord 2025. And as usual, I have a lot of great information for you. Let me go ahead and click over here, Murtech on Rumble, and share this out here with you. This is the video we're watching tonight, my episode 1734. It says upcoming, but as you know, you're actually watching it. So let's go ahead and click into that and pause this. Hi, Debbie BS. All right, let's slide down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. Okay, we have information from Andrew Klavan, and this comes directly from his channel. Right there's the link to the video. Here's the link to Andrew Klavan's channel. Also from Benny Johnson, here's the link to the video and the link to Benny Johnson's channel. We also have some information from Dr. Steve Turley. Here's the link to Dr. Steve Turley's video and his channel. And from X22 report, Mr. and Mrs. X, here's the link to that video and the link to his channel right over here. Okay, and I have a bonus here from Wendy, but that was from last night. I forgot to take that out. But at any rate, I do have some shout outs to give from the Olam Haba, just started following my channel. Rodford just started following my channel. CoolCat388 just started following my channel. CL Bullion 7 just started following my channel. And Kotzi82 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in and I hope you enjoy the content. All right, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1733, and CL Bullion 7 reposted my extra 500B. Big John Perez, Damn Yankee 1776, and Sue's Pole 2016. JC1Q Patriot, Debbie BS, and Peter Van commented on my episode 1733. I got a lot of comments on that one. Debbie BS and Island Girl 0615 commented on my extra 518. Debbie BS commented on my extra 518B. Debbie BS and DMH Deplorable. And Linda Fossilman commented on my extra 518C. So thank you folks very much for your comments. I really enjoy reading your feedback and I certainly appreciate your support. So let me give you a thumbs up on that. Okay, and speaking of comments, let me share out the comment of the day from Peter Van. And he says, listening from New Zealand. Enjoy the show as it covers a quick summary of current news. Well, thank you very much, Peter Van. I hope you're watching again tonight, although it's probably today, Monday, in New Zealand. But hey, thank you very much for the comment. Okay, let's jump back here. And before we move on, folks, I want to give you an update here on my stats and analysis for my Rumble Studio. Okay, creator program November 2025. Hours streamed from Rumble Studio this month. I've got 23.2. I need 30, so I'll get that 7 by the time I get through my daily news wrap up tonight. Hours watched this month, my goal is 200, and I've had 378.9 hours watched. Alrighty, this is the second. All right, total chatters this month. I've had 5 unique chatters. I need 20, so I'm going to try to remind you to chat it up, especially new people that haven't chatted before, because I need unique chatters. I know Debbie BS, she likes to chat with me every night, but if we can get some new people to jump in there, that would be great. Okay, Rumble Premium exclusive hours. I've got my quota on that. I need 5 hours. Last night, my daily news wrap up was Rumble Premium, so I've got 8.2 hours. Rumble Studio host reads, I need 5. I've got 4, so I'll probably get that done tonight as well. I'll do a Rumble feed, a Rumble ad throughout this program sometime. Okay, jumping back here. Let's go ahead and get moving here with this from Andrew Klavan. We're going to start out with his monologue, then jump up to about the 12-minute and 21-second mark. The Great Feminization, episode 1253. So let's take a listen and see what that's all about. Oh, let me get it back to the beginning for you.
The New York mayor election is a few days away, and all across the city, New Yorkers are already preparing for a victory by Democrat Zohran Mamdani. Some prepare by using their laptops as kickboards and attempting to paddle across Long Island Sound to Connecticut. Others are staging reenactments of the scene in the Ten Commandments, where people gather their belongings and livestock and head into the wilderness for 40 years rather than facing the future at home. More philosophical and reflective New Yorkers simply sit in the shadow of the noose they've hung from these ceiling heating pipes, weeping quietly into their pumpkin spice lattes. Meanwhile, Mamdani continues his charisma-fueled campaign with his face lit by a smile so charming it reminds supporters of Pennywise the Clown just before he entices a child into the sewer by offering him a red balloon. In an appearance before a gathering of the American Federation of Islamist Terrorists bent on killing everybody and blaming Israel, the AFITBKEBI, Mamdani delivered his closing arguments to an enthusiastic crowd gaily decked out in brightly colored sticks of dynamite. Mamdani said, quote, "When I am mayor, there will be free buses powered by rainbow-colored unicorn farts and health care that will be paid for by taxing all the rich people who used to live here before they left so I wouldn't be able to tax them. And there'll be government grocery stores where the shelves will be packed with totally free luxury goods that you can almost see if you close your eyes and imagine very hard. And sure, I've claimed the police are oppressors funded by the Jews, and sure, I've said I want to seize the means of production, just like the murderous tyrant Vladimir Lenin, and yes, I've supported terrorists and criminals who prey on the innocent, but those are just things I actually believe in. This is the time to forget all that and come into the sewer where I'll give you a red balloon," unquote. The speech was broadly criticized by virulent Islamophobes and other groups opposed to being blown up and beheaded. But the people who were there greeted Mamdani's words with explosive applause, or just explosives. Some Democrats have hesitated to endorse Mamdani. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, for instance, can't decide whether to press the big red button marked, "I have no core beliefs, so I'll pretend to stand with the lunatic base," or the identical red button marked, "I have no core beliefs, so I'll pretend to reject extremism in case there are still some Democrats who aren't total scumbags like myself." On the other hand, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has gone all in, endorsing Mamdani at the annual meeting of the Society for Evil Clowns Who Entice Innocent Children into Sewers with Red Balloons, or the SECEICSRB. Governor Hochul said, quote, "When people ask me why I endorse Zohran Mamdani for New York mayor, I simply tell them, look in my eyes. Do you see anything there but an endless darkness in which values and ethics are dissolved to nothing by the acid of my ambition and love of power? How could you, when my very soul is a portal into a living hell of desire for the empty simulacrum of love that is the vote of fools who are being enticed into a catastrophe of American-hating dysfunction by their own ignorance and envy, which allow them to be charmed out of rational thought by a creepy smile and obvious lies? So vote for Mamdani, otherwise I'll just have to live with myself, which would be intolerable," unquote. Hochul's speech was praised for its startling honesty by the editorial board of the New York Post just before they headed downtown with backpacks full of gold bars in the hopes they could bribe their way through the Holland Tunnel and reach New Jersey. But Mamdani continues to have the support of younger voters, like one 25-year-old who told reporters, quote, "I love Mamdani because he reminds me of the golden days of my childhood and that funny clown who hid in the sewer and offered me a red balloon. I can't exactly remember what happened after that, but I guess we're about to find out." Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
All right, there you have it, folks. Let me go ahead and jump this up here to 12-minute and 21 seconds. Here we go.
I just make it look this easy. Chapter 1, Woke, Thy Name is Woman. So, as I say, while I was in Austria, this article came out in Compact Magazine, which was interesting in itself, that was kind of the most important article of the week, and everybody was talking about it, and it came from an online magazine as opposed to, the New Yorker or Atlantic or anything like that. And as I say, it was called The Great Feminization. You may remember Helen Andrews. I think she was on the show after she wrote the book Boomers. Very smart lady, very crusty in a lot of ways, but also just sharp. She's just a person who says sharp things. And she made this speech at NatCon, which is what the article was based on. And she talked about this as an unprecedented movement, an unprecedented moment. There's cut two.
There have been many societies that have been feminist to one degree or another, in which women have been queens and owned businesses and held positions of authority that commanded the respect of men. But there has never been a society in which women hold as much political power as they do today. Think of all of the parliaments that have ever existed, every legislature in every country in every century. None of them has been, as ours is, 1/3 female. The idea of a female chief of police would have seemed very strange even to many early feminists, and yet today the police department is led by a woman in the largest city in America and in the city in which we are now standing. Law schools today are majority female. Law firm associates are majority female. Medical schools are majority female. Women earn a majority of BAs, PhDs. College faculty are majority female.
This is something that's kind of obvious, but it's overwhelming when you start to think about it. All these places are majority female. Now, some of you may have noticed this, that men and women are very different. They're very different kinds of people. In fact, they're the only different kinds of people there are. There are only two kinds of people in the world. One is men and one is women. Everybody else is kind of aligned. You have more in common with a man your age from Japan than you do with a woman your age from America. I mean, it's just, if you're a man, it is just the great divide in human history. Every myth, every creation myth starts with the creation of man and woman. It's the most obvious thing, no matter how hard, whether it's communists or communists, they always try to erase that difference. And even capitalists, as I've said before, even capitalists don't like the priorities of women because they don't necessarily feed into profit and the competition that makes capitalism work. So because men and women are different, if you feminize an industry, if it becomes majority feminine, the industry is going to change. And that change is, according to Helen, is wokeness. And what the uprise of the woke comes along with the feminization of several industries. So this is cut 3.
If you want to put it in a single sentence, you could say that feminization equals wokeness. Everything you think of as wokeness is simply an epiphenomenon of demographic feminization. Think about all the things that wokeness means. Valuing empathy over rationality, safety over risk, conformity and cohesion over competition and hierarchy. All of these things are privileging the feminine over the masculine. So if you have ever wondered why wokeness appeared out of nowhere when it did, that is my hypothesis, that all of the institutions that began admitting women in the 1970s eventually got enough women that they were able to reorient them.
Now think about this for a minute, because again, this is Helen Andrews. She makes a joke, and the joke is, she says, because behind her are sitting all these guys in suits and ties, looking like they wish they were anywhere else. They're just looking like, oh my God, I can't believe, I don't want to be associated with this. They're just absolutely, you can see them almost sweating. And she makes a joke. She says, now I'm going to say something controversial, and everybody laughs. But then she talks about the fact that nothing she has said is controversial. It's not controversial to say that men and women are different. It's not controversial. It's simply been banned. The thought, idea, the fact, the obvious fact, the most obvious fact in human life, the most important fact in human life, the most joyful and beautiful fact in human life, that men and women are different, has been banned. But it's not controversial. We all know it's true. As my son once said to me, if a scientific paper came out that was peer-reviewed and gone over 1 million times saying men and women were the same, it would have no effect, because we all know that is not the case. So the second thing she says is, when a business becomes feminized, when it becomes majority feminine, it will start to take on some of those feminine traits. That too, and is an obvious point. Wouldn't that be the case, right? If everybody in the room were 8 feet tall, that would change the nature of the room. If people are different and there are only two kinds of people, then that's going to change the nature of the business that they're in. What's controversial, she says, is it's okay to notice these things. And I'm not sure I agree with her about that. They've tried to make it unokay, but they were forced into making it okay. She says, okay to notice these things, but you're not allowed to notice them unless you say they're good. So if you say, well, there's many more women in the legal industry now, isn't that wonderful? Then you're allowed to say it. But it becomes controversial when you say it's a bad thing. And she explains why she thinks it's a bad thing. That's cut 4.
Feminization is not just an interesting new development that has had some pluses and minuses. It's that feminization, in the case of many important institutions, is a bad thing. In a few cases, it is so bad as to be, to threaten the end of civilization. The rule of law, for example, is a very important thing. It's also very fragile. It requires a deep commitment to objectivity and clear rules, even when those rules yield an outcome that is not nice. I do not want judges who are more interested in context and relationships than in what the law says.
Now, the other thing she adds in her article, which she doesn't say in her speech, is that when feminine values take over, the purpose of the industry suddenly comes in second. So in other words, as she was saying about the law, if you're worried about being nice, if you're worried about collegial relations, if you're worried about the fact, whether or not the facts are the important things or whether the feelings are the important thing. She cites the Brett Kavanaugh hearing where men were saying, well, he may or may not have done something bad, but there's no facts. There are literally no facts. I mean, as Molly Hemingway pointed out, there was absolutely no evidence that he had ever met the woman who was accusing him. And as Helen says, what the women were worried about is, yes, but she's crying. Yes, but she's hurt. Yes, but she's obviously very sincere, and therefore he's guilty. And that was exactly what you read every morning in the New York Times, that he was obviously guilty because women had been disbelieved in the past, and therefore they were being disbelieved now. And all of those things didn't matter to men who were saying, I'm not hearing any evidence at all. That changes, not only changes the nature of the business, but it takes the telos of the business, the purpose of the business, and makes it second, which is what's happened, for instance, in news, in television news. Now they're going to explain to us what we should believe. They're going to tell us the news we should hear that will make us feel the things we should feel instead of the news. That's the difference. Now, the other thing she says is she talks about the fact that feminization lowers standards. And let's take a listen to this, cut 5.
There certainly are many women who have the talent and the inclination to meet the old standards. There are many women who are excellent judges. I know many female journalists who are just as hard-nosed and uncompromising as any of their male peers. There definitely are such women, but I am not sure that there are enough of them. Because the question is not, can some women be excellent professors? The question is it possible to have an academia that is majority female and is still as committed to and still respects the unhindered pursuit of unpopular truths as much as the old predominantly male academia did? I believe the answer is no.
This is the question of scale. Is something that could be good in the small scale, does it remain good in the large scale? And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next chapter, because this thing, of all the subjects that haunt me as somebody who watches politics and cares very much about this country and cares very much about the politics of this country, the question of scale is the one that haunts me the most because I cannot solve it. I have an idea how it can be solved. And people, whenever I say things like this, people write in and say, well, you solve it this way, this way, this way. And I think yeah, I thought of all those ways, but they actually don't work. And I will explain why, but I'll talk about that in a minute.
I'm going to go ahead and move on. Excellent video, folks. I'm like 22 minutes into this 1 hour and 17-minute video, and I wanted to give you a taste of this. And I can't argue with him. I can't argue with this lady that was given that speech. You know, is it that way 100%? No, no, but it seems to be trending that way, and also with the statistics that she gave, it makes you wonder. Okay, so what's going on here? Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Andrew Klavan. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. And all right, I've got a comment from Debbie BS, and I've got a comment from Biffett. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments. I greatly appreciate that. I wish some more people would jump in there and just say hi or tell me what's on your mind or something that you'd like to see or something that you don't like to see. But as it is, let's move on with Benny Johnson. Kamala Harris snaps on Jon Stewart, drops multiple F-bombs in Psychotic Trump breakdown. Imagine that. Well, let's just take a listen and see what she has to say. Okay, and Benny's going to have one of his weird memes here at the beginning. So we'll go ahead and watch this. Okay. Uh-oh. I hate when that happens. No, don't do it. Uh-oh, no. We're getting any audio through the video, so here we go. Sorry about that. It's a rumble thing.
What's up, guys? Benny. One of my favorite parts of the last few months has been watching the grifter class from the Biden regime go around trying to sell books because they can't make money anywhere else, and trying to explain to us that a man who pooped his pants on live TV, which is the only explanation for Joe Biden leaving mid-interview during a live interview. You wonder why he never did any live interviews? This is why. And then wobbling off set. It is a remarkable thing to see. In the middle of a question, Joe Biden just gets up, leaves, takes the microphone with him, and runs away. The cameraman here deserves, some type of cinematography award for capturing all of it. Certainly not the only time that Joe Biden has wobbled away humiliatingly on camera. This, of course, is the last time Joe Biden was on camera at a campaign event, and Barack Obama had to physically assist him off of the stage. It's really hard to watch, frankly. You can tell that Joe Biden halting and incapable of moving under his own power, critically thinking or operating, needed to be minded to and cared for by somebody who still had their capacities. Watch Barack Obama literally take him by the arm. You've seen it a million times, but, well, it's worth revisiting to show you what liars, how horrible these people are. Look at how frail Joe Biden is. And a reminder that Joe Biden, in his last time really ever on camera before dropping out of the race, couldn't even get into the vehicle. Couldn't even get into the beast. Here's Joe Biden, unable to get into the car. The Secret Service had to come up from behind him and foist him into the vehicle, push him into the car. You can see here. Joe Biden can't get into the car by himself. Of course, obviously, as you know, had to take the short stairs down Air Force One. And this is something very unique. You never see this with President Trump. A Secret Service agent following Joe Biden down the stairs in order to catch him in case something went wrong. You've never seen anything like this before. Look at how closely the agent is following him. You would never see this with Trump. Joe Biden, no most slipping there. Goodness. Anyway, the point is that the people who are complicit in all of this are completely evil. It's crazy. And though even the Democrat apparatus that is designed in order to protect the party at all costs and with all their humiliation is crashing out. Kamala Harris, trying to sell her book, shocks Jon Stewart by insisting that Biden was fully competent to serve another term, and then going on an expletive-laden rant about President Trump's White House. So Kamala just totally and completely crashing out here. Let's go with the lie first.
He was fully competent to serve.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
That surprises me, actually.
No, I do. There's a distinction to be made between running for president and being president.
What's the distinction?
Well, being a candidate for president of the United States is about being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace, having tomatoes thrown at you every step you take.
Shut up. What does that even mean? Okay, and now Jon Stewart has to put on his propaganda hat again. Listen to this.
Sitting president while doing that, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I think it's a hard case to make for people that.
So Jon Stewart doesn't ask any follow-up questions. Yes, 0 follow-up questions there. Kamala says, no, he was fully competent to serve. Nah, brah. I got footage of him being unable to get into a waiting vehicle, which, by the way, this isn't the Beast. President should never travel in a vehicle like this. And this is an SUV that they had because they created an SUV because Joe Biden couldn't move. He couldn't get down low enough to actually sit inside of the Beast, the one that President Trump drives in. So even with the manufactured vehicle for his handicaps, Joe Biden is still unable to get into the car. So no, he wasn't fit to be president if he's unable to get into a car. And now there's Kamala Harris as Kamala Harris crashes out.
Kidding me? This guy wants to create a ballroom for his rich friends while completely turning a blind eye to the fact that babies are going to starve when the SNAP benefits end in just hours from now. Come on. So I'm not going to be distracted by, does the guy have a big hammer? What about those babies?
Right.
Well, it's Democrats who are shutting down the government. So, based on this, of course you should cut welfare and EBT to the bone. And the babies are, based on all available data, criminal aliens, right? A significant portion of SNAP and EBT beneficiaries are not American citizens. So, of course, we have no obligation at all under the Constitution or anywhere to pay for their food, ultra-processed food, which could be steak or caviar or lobster tail or truffle salt, as we have covered. But either way, Kamala Harris is saying naughty words, you see, so you should listen to her. She dropped 2 F-bombs in this clip. Talking about...
Acted by, does the guy have a big hammer?
Based on what we know about Kamala Harris's history, she probably does care if the guy has a big effing hammer for promotional purposes, if you know what I mean. The moment you realize you've been voting for the wrong person the whole time. All right. Kamala Harris trashes Joe Biden for his unbelievable call right before the Trump debate. Kamala Harris saying that Joe Biden, you can tell there's no love lost here. Kamala Harris saying that Joe Biden sabotaged her debate with Donald Trump. Yikes. To be fair, she also thinks that she's fully competent to serve as president. Kamala Harris shocks Jon Stewart, insisting Biden was fully competent. Their line is that he was fit to execute the office of the president, but campaigning was too taxing. Got it? We're still lying about this. Okay. I didn't listen. Natural follow-up would be, so why did you kick him off the ticket? But Jon Stewart won't ask a natural follow-up. That's what's so frustrating about this. Let's think about this. Harris claims that Biden was competent. She replaced him and got smoked. If he was competent, then what does that make her? Of course. Right. Occam's razor. He was, when you're on vacation 70% of the time, even I could be president. When DNC shills like Jon Stewart know Kamala Harris is lying, got a real problem. New rule. People who interview Kamala Harris must tell you about the number of drinks that she had before answering questions. It's not working. Shock and worry. Stephen Colbert shuts down Biden's former press secretary as she continues passive-aggressive media tour, denying that she saw any decline. So I guess this is what they've because Cringe did the same thing. The reason why is that if they admitted that they witnessed decline, the obvious question then becomes, should we investigate you for the cover-up? This seems more legal than it does ethical or moral, like as though there's going to be a big cover-up for what there's going to be an investigation into what they did. There already are multiple investigations into how Joe Biden's health was covered up. His doctor may lose his license, for instance. Some people may go to jail. His pardons are null and void, according to congressional inquiry. So those people responsible for this cover-up have committed, of course, a grave sin against the American people, the public and the voting public. So you can see why they'd want to lie. Or want to effing lie, according to Kamala Harris.
Ballroom for his rich friends? Well, are you kidding me?
Pay attention to me. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.
All right, there you have it, folks. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you this video does come from Benny Johnson. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All righty, let's get back here and move on down to Dr. Steve Turley. He's got a short little snippet here that he wants to share with you about Zohran Mamdani. Panics as scandal blows up. All right, let's see what he has to say.
Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, wishing all of you a happy November from beautiful but a bit crisp Connecticut. I'm up here visiting my family over the weekend, but we're just about 40 miles away from what's turning out to be ground zero for a full-blown Democrat civil war. With just 3 days until Election Day, something remarkable is happening in New York City's mayoral race. Mamdani's once commanding lead is evaporating. And we've got some new polling data that suggests this election could be far closer than anyone expected. And it's Mamdani himself who appears to be blowing up his own campaign. So I'm sure you all know, but Zohran Mamdani, the self-proclaimed Democrat socialist, he's promised to basically revolutionize New York City with free childcare, free buses, government-run grocery stores, turn it into Caracas, basically. He was running away with this election. He had a double-digit lead over Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa. But then something happened. The more this guy opened his mouth, the more he started destroying his own brand. First, he got caught in a blatant lie. He claimed that his aunt had stopped riding the New York subway right after 9/11 because so many Islamophobic New Yorkers were accosting her for wearing her hijab. Just one problem, it never happened. He has a single aunt who we now know was living in Tanzania at the time of September 11th, not in New York City. She wasn't even here. She was nowhere near the city. And so Mamdani desperately tried to backtrack by saying that was actually his father's distant cousin, not his aunt. And of course, as it turns out, with a little investigating, it turns out that his father's distant cousin was also living in Tanzania at the time. So he got caught lying, and then he got caught lying in the cover-up, right? And then, as if it couldn't get worse from there, Mamdani, his campaign just got hit with revelations that it had accepted nearly $13,000 in illegal foreign donations from 170 contributors residing outside the United States. That's a federal crime. Only U.S. citizens or permanent legal residents can donate to political campaigns here. And so, while, in fairness, many of those donations were returned, including a $500 donation from his mother-in-law in Dubai, as of mid-October, 88 foreign donations totaling over $7,000 still had not yet been returned. And of course, the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, he's calling for a Justice Department investigation into this. President Trump has made similar calls as well. With all of these scandals, it appears to be taking a toll on Mamdani's campaign. The latest polling shows Mamdani's lead shrinking dramatically. The latest Atlas Intel poll that was just released today shows the race tightening significantly. Mamdani is down to just 41%, and Cuomo's risen to 34%. So it's a mere 7-point advantage with a 3-point margin of error. So that means this race could realistically be within striking distance on Tuesday, Election Day. But the key here is that Mamdani's momentum has officially ended. His campaign has stalled. And ironically, it's Cuomo that's surging. He has all the momentum right now. And in fairness, as does Sliwa. Sliwa's surging, but at this point, it doesn't look like he has anywhere near enough to overtake Mamdani. We'll see. But here's where things get truly fascinating. Governor Kathy Hochul, right? She's the Democrat leader of the New York Democrat Party. She just went on TV and essentially admitted that Mamdani's signature tax the rich plan would economically devastate not just the city, but the state as a whole. And she said Mamdani is not going to get the money he needs from Albany in order to fulfill all of his promises in transforming New York City into a socialist paradise. Hochul basically said it's not happening. And she said, bottom line, look, if this guy actually did follow through with taxing the rich like he's promising, you're going to see a mass exodus from New York like you would never even imagine. Remember, this is already a problem for blue states. Blue states have been hemorrhaging residents. New York, California, Illinois, they've all been losing electoral college votes, or they're in the process of losing. They're in the process of losing representatives because they're losing so much population. And the more the Democrats double down on their radical far left, the more these blue states are going to continue to see their populations deplete, with more political representation shifting to red states. If you don't know, Mamdani, he's promised $10 billion in new annual spending, $10 billion, including $6 billion for universal childcare, nearly $1 billion to make buses free, $500 million for new Department of Community Safety, billions more for affordable housing, government-run grocery stores. And to pay for all this, he claims he can raise $9 billion through two major tax increases, a 5% point hike in the corporate tax rate, projected to raise $5 billion, and a 2% income tax surcharge on earnings over $1 million, projected to raise $4 billion. But economists across the political spectrum have eviscerated these projections. The Cato Institute points out that Mamdani fundamentally confuses marginal tax rates with average tax rates. Raising only the top marginal corporate rate does not mean the entire tax base increases by that full percentage. The Empire Center notes that New York City's wealthiest already pay the highest non-federal income taxes in America at 15%, and Mamdani wants to push that to 17%, 3.5 points higher than any other state. So currently the top 1% of city taxpayers, about 34,000 filers, pay 40% of the city's income tax revenue. If Mamdani's plan were implemented, that would rise to over 60%. So that creates what economists call catastrophic concentration risk. The entire city budget becomes dangerously dependent on a tiny group of highly mobile residents who can afford to leave. And why wouldn't they? Why would people stay in New York City when they can move to Florida or Texas or Tennessee or heck, New Jersey? Again, if the whole country goes commie, like in Venezuela, there's nothing anyone could do apart from actually picking up and leaving the country. But if you try to socialize a tiny little portion of it, like a single city, when it's surrounded by all of these pro-capitalist local economies, why on earth would anyone expect them to stay when they could pick up and move 15 minutes south, and that would save them millions upon millions of dollars? So this is why more and more moderate centrist Democrats like John Fetterman, or the now independent but once former Democrat Andrew Yang, they're all openly calling Mamdani a political disaster in every way imaginable. He's a disaster when it comes to New York City, And he's a disaster for the Democrat Party as a whole, in that the Republicans are already frothed. They're chomping at the bit to make this guy the new face of the Democrat Party. A woke, socialist, leftist Muslim is not going to play well in the 7 swing states that are inordinately populated with blue-collar, working-class whites. It's just not a brand that promises to sell. Again, the key here is that Mamdani is controversial even in New York City. He's splitting the left inside one of the bluest cities in the nation. If he's causing so much havoc among the Democrats inside one of their safe havens, how do you think it's going to play out in swing states where you need to increase the Democrat vote, not split it? So we'll see how all of this plays out on Tuesday. The polls show Mamdani is still leading, and he should still win, but his support is softening. Undecided voters are increasing, and the generational turnout battle could swing this race dramatically in either direction. Regardless of what happens, it does look like the Democrats are increasingly doubling down on their most woke socialist wing, which ultimately means that the Democrats are inadvertently exacerbating their slow but inevitable decline.
All right, folks, there you have it. I don't know what's going to happen. I think the Mamdani will win the mayorship of New York City, and because I would say the majority of the people that live in New York City are dependent on others for their housing and income and groceries and things of that nature. So if somebody promises more of it, yeah, let's do it. All right. This video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I've given him a thumbs up. I'm subscribed to his channel. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's move on here and see what X22 report has to say. Mr. and Mrs. X, the food industry is trying to pull a fast one on RFK Jr., MAHA. This will fail. We can only hope so. Let's see what they have to say. And now this is a premium clip. This is a premium clip from X22 report. So I'm going to share this with you, a few minutes of it. And if you want to watch more of it, then you'll need Rumble Premium. I have Rumble Premium. I do because I have my channel here. I have to get into that and to use Rumble Studio. But at any rate, this is some interesting stuff. So let's go ahead and take a listen, and please enjoy.
Talked about this before, to talk every single show on Rumble ad-free. So it's your choice. And I'd like to introduce Mrs. X.
Hey, everyone.
And today we're going to talk about RFK and how he's making America healthy again. And you can see they've already started off, and we talked about this before, they started off with Big Pharma with Tylenol, and I do believe that was done on purpose because they started off with something that was very easy for people to grasp. Everyone knows what Tylenol is. And RFK also is tackling the food industry. And like we said from the very, very beginning, I do believe the deep state players, they put everything into motion to weaken this country, weaken the children, weaken the adults. And the way they did this was through vaccines and through food. And yes, there's many other things that they use to brainwash the children and things like that, which we already talked about. So today we're going to talk about the food, because we know that RFK now is removing a lot of the dyes and a lot of the chemicals from the food. And of course, the food industry is saying, of course we're with you. We're going to do exactly what you want. But once again, you have to remember, the food industry, they make a lot of money creating food with chemicals because it's very, very expensive to create food with real ingredients. I mean, if you look at Europe, the food out there is much more expensive than here in the United States. And they've been using chemicals in our food. Now, I do believe that this all goes back, and I've said this many, many times before, all back to the Federal Reserve. Because once again, as the value of the currency declines, you need to create cheaper products, cheaper ways of doing things. And one of them is food. Yes, they have the agenda to make us sick, but to create food, they have to use chemical products, and they have to use flavoring, they have to use dyes, they have to use the cheapest stuff out there possible. And think about it, we've never had organic food and, the food that they're making. I mean, we just had organic food at one time because everything was grown organically, everything we ate was organic. Now we have, actually, I think we should call it chemical food and real food.
Yeah. I call it Frankenfood a lot of the time because it's lab made food, and I think actually it's ironic because this is one of the things that I was passionate about and was very into many years ago, especially when we were raising our children, because I just didn't like, you just saw so many kids, and I think I was on my own fitness journey, so I saw so many people struggling, and a lot of it was because we forgot what it was to eat real food, because it's so convenient. You're tired, it's a long day, you've been working, bringing kids here and there, so convenience foods they are convenient, and and you're eating them, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, how come I can't lose weight, or how come I feel so bloated, or how come I feel like I don't feel good after I'm eating. And then I would even see some of my friends' kids struggling with weight, and especially as they were going through puberty, and then and they're eating these foods, and what was happening, you're just craving more of these bad foods. And also, we were a big family of 6. So I was making a lot of our food because it just budget-wise, it just made more sense for our family. So we were eating real food, and then I just got more interested in the subject. What brought me to this book that I read years ago from Vani Hari called Feeding You Lies. And it was about how she went up against Big Pharma. She's also known as the Food Babe. She had the Food Babe blog. And she started this blog in 2011 because of the same issue, because she had her own weight struggles, and then, having her own family, and you're looking at the ingredients in the food, and it just gets into all of that. And she called out a lot of these big companies about the dyes and the preservatives they were using, because then when you do the research, you realize a lot of these things end up causing cancer, they cause problems down the road. Because it also just made me wonder, why do so many kids have food allergies, and why? Because I don't remember anyone when I was growing up, we talked about this before, having a peanut allergy or having this. And it just makes you wonder,
you might have seen one kid.
Of course, because there's always somebody.
And actually, when we were going to school back then, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Is that you didn't see many heavy kids. You would always have, the one or two heavy kids. And, of course, people would make fun and that, which, at the time, you're kids. And that's what you did. But you didn't see the entire class being overweight. No, you didn't. And I think that was something that, I never wanted to see my kids struggling with that. But I did see a lot of kids struggling with this, and adults too. It's like, how come what worked for me before when I was younger, like I'm eating the same foods, but you're really not eating the same foods. It's an interesting point. But anyway, to go back to Vani Hari, when she was on this journey, she was actually calling out specifically Subway and Kraft Foods, and she was getting death threats with her blog, and she was getting a lot of that stuff on the different things. And she actually, ironically, she was a Democrat who supported Obama, and she actually turned away from Obama because he didn't follow through on his promises in terms of the food, in terms of like getting the preservatives out of the food. So she kind of started to walk away from that because she realized that he didn't follow through on what he said he was going to do when he ran. So that's how she ended up connecting with RFK Jr. And so she's been a big part of this MAHA movement and her voice. And she was so excited to see all of these changes happening, they're taking the dyes out. And so excited about it, which then brings us to and it all sounded good, right? Because he just said this announcement, I forgot it wasn't long ago that, okay, we're taking the dyes out. Yeah. So, and everyone was cheering. Everyone was like, yes, this is incredible. Yes. We're going to be taking the dyes out. And you have to remember, Europe doesn't use any of these dyes or chemicals and things like that.
No, they do not. And I think that was one of her big things. And she actually was very integral in getting moms, especially into this, which I think was so important, having the moms, because we are as heads of our household, we are thinking about what is going in our kids' bodies, and you think about it, all these chemicals over time. If you're eating this stuff from you're like 5 years old on up, like that's going to build up over time. It's not a good thing. But
and I just want to say one thing before you go on is that they didn't do this like overnight. They did this very, very slowly.
Yes.
And what happened over time is I think people didn't even realize, or they thought this was real food. Oh, if I go get this in a box, or if I go get this frozen, if I eat this is the real food. And of course, they use all these different terms on the packages, natural and those type of words to make you think it is. So I think what happened over time is that we forgot what real food actually was, how real food actually tastes, because they've been giving us flavors, they've been giving us colors, they've been giving us, and these are man-made. It's not natural. And when people look at the natural food and people look at, the chemicalized food, you could really see the difference. But I think throughout time, people forgot what real food actually was. And I think sometimes they think they're eating real food when they're really not.
Well, if you remember back, I don't have the exact year, but you remember when they actually got into a lot of trouble, the food companies, about labeling the food and putting it. And this was a big thing of mine. If I couldn't understand the back of the ingredients, like if I couldn't read them or I never heard of these things, I was like, okay, we're not going to get it. I mean, I'm not going to say you should never ever have an Oreo cookie, or for example, but you have to be mindful of it. If 80% of your food is junk and processed junk, you're going to end up feeling like processed junk yourself, like in my opinion. But when you look at this and you read the backs of food labels, when you're in those middle aisles, if you stick to the outside aisles where you're eating like an apple, and those things, but when you're going into packaged foods, you really do need to read the labels. And they did call on companies years ago to be more transparent. I remember that. But then what happens is then they start that you have to be very careful, because these manufacturers are so good at manipulating us, because then it was like, everyone's like, why am I doing like a low-fat diet and I'm getting heavier? Because then they started replacing like sugar with high fructose corn syrup. It's still sugar, but they were just tricking you into thinking it's low-fat. And then because you're looking at the front of the package and then you read the back of the package, and if you don't know what you're reading, it's very confusing. And it's on purpose, I think, to be very confusing, because then let's face it, you're in the grocery store. Are you going to start reading every label? And it's work, but is it worth it? Yes, but it also, they count on you not doing that work, because in just being convenient, because you're in the store, you're getting your stuff and whatever. But she, like, also Vani Hari was getting onto these restaurants like Chick-fil-A, like Subway, to actually be transparent in their ingredients as well, because if people are eating these foods, and just really calling them on it, because like one example is McDonald's years and years ago, when they started out, used to use tallow for their fries. Then they got away from that, and I don't know what they were cooking them in, but a different oil.
Yeah.
And because
they're
now
probably the cheapest oil they could.
Well, now they're finding a lot of these oils are actually very inflammatory, and they're not good for your gut health. And it's very interesting, and they're also much cheaper. And so people are getting back to tallow. If you hear tallow is like a big buzzword now. Oh, there's tallow in these chips, or there, and tallow is just everywhere. But just getting back to that is just that you want to get into labeling food correctly and just making sure that we are having better ingredients in our food. But where we are now, okay, so they just said, okay, we're gonna take these dyes out and that for 2026, 2027. This is the route we're going. Then all of a sudden last week, what happens? But this agency pops up called this front group called Americans for Ingredient Transparency, AFIT. And it sounds great, right? Wouldn't you think? Americans for Ingredient Transparency? That sounds so on the up and up, right?
It really does.
But really, it's an agency that is claiming that we need to have uniform food labeling standards across the United States. And they basically, really what their mission is, they want to block states from banning harmful food additives. But actually, it's going to strip the states of rights to enact their own potentially stricter rules. They want it federalized, because then it's easier for them to control, because already several states like West Virginia and Texas, for example, are putting stricter guidelines in place than even what RFK Jr. is demanding, because that's their right as the state. But these agencies are saying, no. They don't really know what they're doing. We don't want that. We need to have this federalized so we're all on the same page. But it really is another control, because then they're manipulating it again. It's the classic thing of what they do to trick you into thinking that they're doing something good for you, but it's really going to benefit them as a company. And ironically, it would preempt the state regulations, give federal control, It would reform GRAS for self-certification of safe ingredients without FDA oversight. And they want to mandate uniform labeling and QR codes to block stricter state bans on toxins. And companies such as Coca-Cola, Tyson Foods, and Nestle have banded together to preempt the strict state food labeling laws that are going to be coming into place with MAHA, and because of the route that they're going. And this is classic corporate spin, where they make a consumer group. It has a nice wholesome name, who doesn't want transparency? Like, it's the perfect name.
Well, it's always the opposite. I mean, if you go back in time, the Affordable Care Act, the Patriot Act.
It's the same thing.
It's basically, they give you a really good name, but it's actually doing the opposite of what they're telling you.
Because quietly they're going to lobby to undo food safety regulations, and then they're going to keep the toxic poisons in the market because that is to their benefit. It's not to our benefit. They're pretending that it's to our benefit, as the classic way goes. So that's where we are with that. So,
okay, great information. Now I'm like 14 minutes into this 57-minute video, and as I said, this does come from X22 report. This is a premium only, so I don't know if you have premium. Go ahead and take a listen to this. But I think I'm going to go ahead and include this in my daily news wrap up. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my watch later. So if you want to watch my daily news wrap up, you'll get to see this also. All right. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and give me a chat, folks. Let me know what you think. LNC jumped in. Biffett jumped in. He likes to watch my daily news wrap up. So, Biffett, since you don't have premium, I decided to go ahead and include this in. I will be playing the video, so it should be coming through on my Rumble Studio when I do the daily news wrap up. So let me know what you think, folks. Hi, Blue Peahen. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. Okay, so let me go ahead and give you some my Rumble read here, my campaign for Crypto.com. Short little segment here. Let's take a listen and see what that's all about.
Let's be clear, cryptocurrency is no longer emerging, it's here. And this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform.
They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there.
Want in on the action? Head to Crypto.com today and grab some CRO. Let's make crypto great again.
Okay, there you have it. All right, I did copy the chats into the oh, we got just me VLT verified. Thank you for your thumbs up. I appreciate that. Okay, I copied the live chat into a comment because, as we know, when this live stream is over, the live chats just kind of disappear into cyberspace or hyperspace. So there we have it. I'm proud of all the people that chatted. Thank you very much. And again, folks, let me remind you that these videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that come directly from the producer. I have the links to the videos in my description box, as well as the links to the producer's channel. And all these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com. Here's a video from Andrew Klavan. Okay, here's a video from Dr. Steve Turley. The video from X22 report is right here that I'm going to share in my daily news wrap-up tonight. Now, I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos here at Murtech.com. And the link to Murtech.com is in the description box below. But I don't have time to share all of this, and that's why I do have my daily news wrap-up that starts about 9:30. So give me a chance to go ahead and and update my playlist and get my video set up in Rumble Studio. And meet me back here at 9:30. Go ahead and take a break, grab a donut and a cup of coffee, or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for joining me. I certainly appreciate your support. Share this out with your friends, contacts, and family members so they can know of a place to come to get the truth. Okay? Because that's what I'm pushing here. I'm pushing the information that the Democrats and the deep state and the mainstream media are not going to let you know. So with that being said, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.